Great. So now that we have a basic understanding of MODO's cameras and light system, we can have a look at the materials. Before we get there though, I would like to mention that there is quite a selection of materials that can be downloaded from the Foundry's website or as a learning resource or to use in your projects. And also MODO ships with quite a selection of excellent materials that you can use, explore and change. In MODO, a material can be described as a collection of properties that define look and physical surface attributes of an object or a part of an object. Whether an item emits light, is smooth or rough, reflects its environment or is see-through, all of this and more can be defined by attributes contained within a material and maps associated with it. So before we go ahead and start making our own materials, I would like to show you how we can use presets inside of MODO. It's extremely simple. All you have to do is just drag and drop a preset on top of an object inside of the preview render. And there you go, MODO will just assign the shader and render it. So let's quickly add some gold to the color, and for the skin on top of the head I will use the skin shader, this time not as a preset. And boom, there you go. From here, it's a great place where you can start tweaking and adjusting and making the render look actually outstanding. Great, so now that we know how to apply presets, let's have a look at the way we can create our materials. Aside from materials used for skin shading, cell shading and hair shading, MODO is greatly simplifying things by encapsulating all shading properties within one material. Or your diffuse shading settings, specular reflection, and bump and displacement settings, as well as transparency, subsurface scattering and luminosity can be found and are accessible just by switching few tabs. Okay, so now that we know what can be achieved, let's go ahead and quickly create our own material. So now let's start working on this bronze material. Let's go ahead and press M to create a new material, and I will quickly go ahead and change the base color for this guy to match something similar to bronze. So now that we have a cool base color, let's add something that would serve as the roughed up areas or the polished areas of the bronze. So for that I would like to use a preset, so let's bring in the preset browser just by pressing F6, and let's find something nice in here. So I'll pull up this gold material and just apply it to, or load it into the scene, and if I drag it above my base color, the guy will turn immediately into a lovely gold statue. So now we have two basic layers that will allow me to create a simplistic bronze very quickly. All I have to do is really to mask the gold by some sort of texture on the erased areas to give it the appearance of wear and tear. So let's just add a occlusion texture that is a perfect candidate to do that. And if I want to see the result of the occlusion, I can enable the current layer override on top of the render preview viewport to give me or focus the rendering only on a particular channel. So here's my ambient occlusion. Let's go ahead and change this to convexity, so it will sample only the raised areas. And I know that this is slightly too broad, so let's just reduce this to 100 millimeters, like so. And if I disable this, you'll see that it's affecting currently the diffuse color, but I would like to use it as a mask for this group. So let's just change this from diffuse color to group mask, and everything works nicely except it's inverted. So let's quickly invert this texture to give me the proper result. Cool, so there you have it. This is a quick bronze. Of course, this can be extended much further and refined, but you can see how flexible and easy it is to quickly generate great looking materials inside of MODO. So when it comes to actually generating the outputs for final compositing and adjusting in a compositing application, such as Nuke for example, in MODO the creation of these channels is extremely simple. By default every scene comes with the final color output and alpha output. So the final color is right here in front of you, and if I change this to alpha, you'll see that's my alpha of the object. So if I would like to add one, probably the easiest or the fastest way is just to duplicate the existing channel, but of course you can go to the drop-down menu and just choose a render output from here, but I would just duplicate it and change this to the desired output channel that I would like to use. So now if I change the preview to ambient occlusion, you'll see I'm getting actually the proper output for ambient occlusion. And MODO is smart enough to actually adjust the background and just really give me the occluded areas. So in this case we are preparing the output sets for to be used inside of Nuke. We need to maintain a specific naming convention to help Nuke understand how we would like our outputs to be grouped. So in this case I'm making mats for individual pieces of the model, and just by defining a naming convention where the first part of the name is the definition of the set, and whatever follows after the dot is the actual name of the channel, you can help Nuke to understand how it should be grouped inside of the application. So here I have my 3 mat or alpha channels created. You can quickly explore them just by switching between them within the render preview. Here they are, and now I'm really ready to render for Nuke. Once you made all the passes that you would like to use in compositing, you can hit F9, MODO will render all of them and show them the passes in the render view. Then you can save them out as a layered PNGs or multi-channel EXRs for compositing. Pressing F9 and rendering your final render is a great way to output still images. If you have an animation though, you can access the render animation options from the drop-down on top of MODO's user interface. You can just press render animation, and in the pop-up box you can adjust the animation length, what type of images you would like to output. In this case I would like to use layered images for EXRs, for EXR output, and I can choose layered OpenEXR as my output type. I know, this is not quite MODO, but I thought that it's a good idea to actually show you where all that effort went by organizing all the channels and how you can actually simplify your work inside of Nuke. So for example, if I click on the mat set channel, you'll see that all our newly created masks actually were imported into Nuke as a one layer together. And while this is a very simple example, I hope you can see that this is a great feature of MODO that allows you to group your channels into logical units for speeding up the compositing workflow and making the adjustments and channel management a breeze. Great, so there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you can clearly see how MODO can enhance your rendering and shading workflow. Wide selection of lighting tools, material presets, and the speed of the preview renderer make the shading and lighting work with MODO quite an artistic experience. Not only you can achieve better results, but you can also increase the speed at which you arrive to visual that simply sells. So if this topic interests you, please do check out the Foundry's website for more great rendering and shading learning material. That said, have a great day and have fun MODOing.